So I was living it up in Vegas, and it is the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life. I got a terrible night's sleep in the backseat of my Jeep. It was epic. I've traveled to over 55 countries on all 7 continents. I'm scared all the time, you guys. You're absolutely going to be scared, and you just function in the fear. You're scared and you do it anyway. The reason that I love the midterm rental strategy is because you're getting increased rent versus a long-term rental. On average, in 2024, my guest stayed 87 nights. That allows for about 75 days of pure bliss and silence. It isn't really all that hard. I was able to reach undescribable amounts of success really quickly.
Welcome back to another episode of Invest in Rome. This show is all about building wealth, freedom, and adventure, and living the life that you deserve, all through investing. Today's guest is redefining what it means to live life on your own terms. Sarah Weaver is an international speaker, author, and full-time real estate investor who runs 3 thriving companies while traveling the world full-time. She owns rental units across 4 states, manages them remotely, all while visiting 56 countries across 7 continents and doing it from her laptop. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to get to and all the things and all the real estate stuff, but I wanted to start off with what I think is the most important question of all. What is your favorite place that you've traveled?
Oh my goodness. Well, my favorite food, I have to do it in categories because
Oh, I
I'm
love this. I love
I'm one
food
of
too and travel. So these are my top 2. I love real estate and investing as well, but any chance that we can talk about food and traveling, I'm all about it.
Okay, amazing. Well, yeah, I there's just no way that I can pick a favorite country. So I have been asked this question, as you can imagine, probably many times. And so I've broken them into categories. My favorite countries to visit for food is Japan and Thailand. My favorite
Ooh.
countries to visit for beaches is Greece and Bali. My favorite countries for culture and, exploration is Mexico and Argentina.
What's the easiest place for an expat
Ooh,
if you
that's
want
good.
to jump ship and just move there?
Yeah, I think for just a traveler, the easiest place to visit for Americans is Ireland. It's a super quick, easy flight. They speak English. It's super fun to tour around. You could quite literally go with no plans. As far as living as a digital nomad, for me, the answers would be Lisbon, Portugal, and Mexico City, Mexico.
Ooh. I haven't been to Lisbon yet, but it's definitely on my radar bucket list. I heard there are a lot of expats there.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. I'm from California, and I hear their weather is amazing, just like California's weather.
Yeah. Yeah, Lisbon and San Francisco feel really similar in a lot of different ways between the rolling hills and the bridge being from the same architect or designer. And yeah, the weather's pretty much the same.
Last year when I had, I think we had chatted or a little bit, and you were planning a trip to Antarctica. Did you make it there?
I did. I did. That was my 7th continent. And not only did I go, but I actually took 11 real estate investors with me because I own a company called Invested Adventures and I take people on epic retreats.
That is amazing. What places have you gone so far on your retreats?
Yeah, we've done a lot. We've done several trips to Guatemala, actually coming up in February 2026. We have our next trip to Guatemala. I love to do a goal setting retreat in Guatemala once or twice a year. It's a country that's not on a lot of people's bucket list, but it should be. It's really easy to get to. It's incredibly fun. It's very well priced. And I have some really great on the ground connections. So we do a private cocktail class. We get a chance to stay in this beautiful villa. The town is covered in cobblestone and bright colored buildings. And then there is a volcano outside of town that is spewing lava. And so it's a really great
Wait, is that a good thing?
well, yeah, we're
It's
far
not
enough
not
away from it.
okay.
And so it makes for a really great backdrop. So I love taking investors to Guatemala. We have taken investors to Italy, African safari, hiking in Kilimanjaro. We've hiked Patagonia down in Chile. I've been to the south of Italy in the Puglia region, taken people to a couple places in Tennessee for like a US based adventure, Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I've repeated a lot of these trips as well.
Ooh, I love all those places. That's so cool. See, and you wrap that into an investor, kind of like an investor retreat?
Yes.
This
So
could be like a
every
business expense write-off.
Exactly. Every adventure is a true business expense. We have a CPA approved and audited itinerary to make
Amazing.
sure. And I also just really believe in hanging out with people that want the life that you want and hopefully have parts of the life that you want. And so why not do that in a really, grandiose place like a African safari in Tanzania?
Wow. Also my bucket list. For your rental, you focus mostly on midterm rentals, is that right?
So half of my portfolio is furnished and running as midterm rentals, and half of my portfolio is still long term.
Ah, okay. Did you start with long-term and then you made a shift to midterm?
Yeah, my first 3 properties were long-term rentals, and then on property number 3, I slowly started turning the long-term units into midterm, and I was hooked, so much so that I decided to write a book about the investing strategy.
Yes, tell
I
us
believe
more.
in
I was
power.
gonna ask you about that. To tell 30 Day Stay is the name of your book, right?
It is. I actually have it sitting here, which I don't normally do, so it's
Oh,
exciting. So
yes,
here
I
is
love
my
that.
book,
Yeah.
30-Day Stay. I co-authored with Ziana McIntyre, and it was published by Bigger Pockets. And it really is a strategic guide for real estate investors so that they could pick up and skip to any chapter and get the advice that they need where they need it. And the reason that I love the midterm rental strategy is because you're getting increased rent versus a long-term rental. So similar to a short-term rental, they're furnished, but unlike a short-term rental, you are having your guests stay 30 days or more. On average in 2024, my guests stayed 87 nights, so just shy of 3 months, and that allows for about 70, 75 days of pure bliss and silence, and it makes
Nice.
a really nice rental versus a quick 2-night, 3-night stay.
You don't have to go in and clean during the 2-month or 3-month stay?
No, I offer. If they wanna pay for my cleaner, they are more than welcome to, but otherwise, yeah, you're not resupplying them with any supplies. You're not having to mess with any of the headache of a quick turnover with these midterm rentals.
So who is staying for 87 days? Are you finding renters on Airbnb
Yes.
or other places? Are they traveling nurses? I think that's the common one I hear, or insurance.
Yeah, so in the last couple of years, I have hosted, a lot of people from furnishfinder.com, Airbnb, and people are finding me on Zillow. And while travel medical professionals and travel nurses is still my most common avatar or tenant, I'm hosting people who are moving there for a new job and not ready to find their forever home. Anyone that, for whatever reason, is staying in any type of a motel. So that is construction workers, interns, people that are sent there for their job, whether that's the Army Corps of Engineers, the people that follow the hailstorms, or like insurance adjusters. Lots of different corporate workers that normally might have to stay in like a Motel 6, they can stay in my unit. And then there is also like unfortunate reasons. People can no longer live in their house because of man made or natural disaster, or they have a loved one in the hospital. So I've hosted people who their husband is in a coma and they are tired of living in a hotel, so they move into my unit while hopefully their loved one recovers. Lots of different reasons that people stay.
You have your portfolio and you are a digital nomad. What was your 9 to 5 before, could I ask?
Yeah, I've done a couple different things. I have taught English in Korea. I've worked as a real estate agent. I have worked as a journalist. I was a journalist at Sports Illustrated and the local paper here in Kansas City, or in Kansas, I should say. I worked as a recruiter for 4.5 years in the real estate industry, which was really nice because I got to know real estate sales backwards and forwards and staffed both brokerages and real estate teams. And then most recently, I was working for a real estate brokerage that also had an education arm. And so I was working closely with both agents and investors.
So you've done a whole lot of things.
Yeah, my resume looks ridiculous. Like I'm not hireable at all.
So now you have 3 companies, right? You've
I
are running 3
do.
companies.
I do. We
Uh,
talked about
mhm.
invested adventures. I also own Aria Design Services, where I serve real estate investors by helping them analyze, furnish, and launch their next rental. So, if someone like you that lives in California, if you get convinced by me to own a MTR in Iowa or Ohio, you likely don't want to fly there and, schlep furniture together. And
Mhm.
so, my team will actually fly anywhere and get your furnished rental launched for you.
Like a one and done.
Correct. Yep, or
Busy
it's not a
parents
good
out
use of your
there.
time, and honestly, with the, relationships we have with vendors, the discounts that we get as interior designers, we're actually able to save you what you pay us in our fee. And so it really does make our service kind of a no-brainer, let alone the hours upon hours that it takes you to fully furnish a unit in a state that you don't live in, or if it even is in your backyard. We have helped investors furnish something that was down the street because they were expecting a baby or they were doing 5 things at once, and they were just like, "We trust Aria, and you're not gonna stress over, 'Did I buy a toaster?' Or then you accidentally buy 3 toasters."
Mhm.
We really take the stress out of launching your first or 10th rental. And then we're also doing things like writing your listing description, creating the automated messaging, everything that you need to hit publish and list on that unit, including setting up all of the cleaning supplies, scheduling the photographer, getting all of the listing photos ready. Anything that is involved in setting up a furnished rental, Aria handles for you.
That sounds like an amazing service, so
Thank
easy.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really, really proud of the company. We have helped hundreds of investors in over 11 states. And even so much so that we've helped like a husband retire his wife so that she could quit the job that she hated, all through helping her, furnish and launch her Airbnbs that now she manages for her family.
Awesome. That's so awesome. I can imagine that it's great for people have full-time jobs that but wanna pick up a short-term rental or a midterm rental or whatever it is, furnished rental, and be able to do that while still doing, like, their job if say if they're like a lawyer or doctor or whatever and
I mean, the reality is that it's gonna take someone 80 to 170 hours just to furnish and launch their property, and they're likely going to overspend because it's their first time doing it. It's not a good use of time for them to be, like, price comparing spoons and plates and sheets, and at Aria Design, we already have all of that taken care of. We have gone through the research, we're constantly updating our lists, and we're not buying the same exact decor for all of our units. They are unique to that area. We're actually doing research to figure out how well designed do you need it to be? What's the theme of the unit? What's the feel of the unit? Who is your avatar? What type of tenant are you trying to attract? And then we furnish in that way specifically. And then I think before we're interior designers, we wear the hat of investor. I'm not buying a cream Moroccan poof that's going to get dirty after 2 stays. I'm really making sure that every item and everything in the unit is a good investment.
That's awesome. That's super helpful. Design is everything, for your rentals. It really makes a difference between 30% occupancy to like 75% off. It's a make or break, right?
Yeah,
When people see their
absolutely.
pictures, they want to, it's like, you got to have some scroll stopping pictures or make it be comfortable for them to think like, I'm going to live there for the next 2 months.
Yeah, and you wanna do it without breaking the bank. I mean, after all, this is an investment, and I see so many investors spend way too much money on things that don't matter. So I think it's also really important to have an investor-minded interior designer serving you to make sure that these are good investments, not just look good in photos, but actually are affecting the vacancy and occupancy, but also not negatively affecting your budget.
I want to hop back to the retreats though. Can we hop
Yeah,
back? Because that's just so fun to talk about. You take investors on these retreats around the world and you are holding like what can someone going on your retreat expect?
each event is going to be a little bit different. So, for example, on the African safari, we have a lot of time together. When you are in the safari vehicle, maybe waiting to find cheetah or a leopard, you can strike up a conversation with the person next to you who maybe they own a boutique motel or they've done 11 syndications. And you can ask deep, meaningful questions about how to get started in that or what the numbers actually look like. And so that particular event I adore because we also spend a lot of time around the dinner table. So there's always extensive, 2-hour dinners at each of these because once the sun goes down, you're not allowed to be driving around the Serengeti. And so we get to spend a lot of quality time together. So that's one of my absolute favorite trips. Then I like to also provide shorter trips for those of you that can't get away for 10 days. So I do offer a 3-night, goal setting retreat where it's a little less adventure. There's no lions and elephants, but we're spending quality time together, eating quality food, and making sure that you're getting questions answered about your specific scenario. So, one of the things that I refuse to do on these trips is anything that could have been a Zoom call. So, there's no presenters, there's no TV flat screen on the wall going through presentation. That's something that we can do via Zoom. What we can't do via Zoom is hear about you, dear, and where are you at in your investing? What's really keeping you from having the portfolio or the life that you deserve? And you likely aren't going to talk about that in a Zoom room full of other people. But if you're sitting with 11 other investors that you just, spent 48 hours with, you're more likely to open up about some of the challenges that you're facing, whether it be financial or mindset or limiting beliefs or something else. And then we can actually serve you and, more importantly, challenge you. And then the accountability afterward, I call the after effect. So the after effect of my events is that you're not alone anymore. You can pick up the phone and call Jack or Steven and say, "Hey, I'm about to take down this deal and I'm nervous, but can you walk me through it?" Or, "Hey, Sarah, I'm about to do my first out of state furnished rental. What do you recommend?" And you now have essentially a lifeline to call after these events that you just can't get from the bigger conferences. Sure, the bigger conferences are amazing and I adore them and I continue to go to them and speak at them, but it's that hallway conversation or the drink that you had on night 2 with somebody and you really connected and now you feel like you can ask them for help. That's what one of the many gifts that the retreats give you.
There's something to be said about food and travel that just brings people together. And then you run into things too when you're traveling, just like interesting things, or maybe travel didn't go the way you planned, the flight got delayed, and then you're
Oh, for
stuck in a
sure.
situation, and then
Yeah.
there's like instant bonding connection somehow.
Absolutely. Or I mean, I also host hiking trips. And so we have had guests that hiked Kilimanjaro. I myself hiked and summited Kilimanjaro. That is what we call type.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That is what we call type 2 fun. While you're doing it, you're wondering, why the heck did I sign up for this? And so while we're not able to have the same meaningful conversations during the day, unless you're a really fit hiker, myself, I'm just trying to breathe while I'm hiking. But the mindset conversations also come in a different way because we're really pushing each other to our max, both physically and mentally in those moments. And then we built bonds that will last forever. The friends that I have from Safari, I actually was just texting one of them just before this, and I hiked Kilimanjaro together. And so we're forever bonded in a different way that you wouldn't get from attending a conference.
That's amazing. How long does it take to hike Mount Kilimanjaro, can I ask?
We did the 8-day route. So it's 6 days up and 2 days down. And it is the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life.
What kind of training do you have to train for? Like, how hard is that training?
You really should take it seriously. I mean, people die on Kilimanjaro. I was doing strength training, yoga, and getting as much hiking as I could. I was living somewhere very flat. And so I was not getting any elevation training like I would have loved to, but that also is really recommended. But again, you guys, I am no mountaineer. Like, please do your own research. Don't just do what I said and try to go conquer Everest Base Camp. I think that would be the biggest advice that I have is that when you're doing some of these hikes, you have to do research. And I was really surprised how some people show up and they're like, "Oh, we're sleeping in tents." And I'm like, "Yes, that was in all the emails."
Surprise!
You read the emails? People, by the way, nobody reads the emails. So
Nobody reads emails. That's a big shocker for them. They show up and they're like, sorry, I packed my electric toothbrush and we're like, what? We're sleeping in a tent."
oh, is there Wi-Fi? No. No, it was
Uh,
amazing. I mean, jokes aside, it was like one of the greatest bonding experiences. And now, like anytime I'm doing something hard, whether it's like mentally hard, like dating, or physically hard, like lifting heavy weights, I literally say to myself, Kilimanjaro, Kilimanjaro. Because if I can do that, I feel like I can do anything.
you can do that. Yes, you can do anything for sure.
It's like navigating online dating.
Okay, back. So, like, people coming to your retreats and then they're having these conversations and you're hearing about them talking about deals. What do you think you hear most about why they're not getting started on a deal or what about the things that are blocking them from doing some deals?
So a lot of the people that are coming on invested adventures, they do own rental properties. That is one of the requirements is you have to be a real estate investor. But I think why people don't have the portfolio that they want is oftentimes they're making excuses. Whether it's, oh, there's not enough good deals. And then I ask them, are you analyzing 15 to 20 deals a week? Well, no. Okay, why not? So they're just not prioritizing the right things. I think another reason that people don't buy the next deal is that they don't know how to analyze deals with confidence. And it's amazing to me how a lot of investors I've met own rental properties. So they're not new. But yet, when you really ask them the nitty gritty, they kind of either offloaded some of the deal analysis to someone else or they trusted their real estate agent and they got lucky and they bought good deals. But the one thing that I would love to see for every real estate investor is for them to get really good at analyzing deals. Even if they don't like math, like I am definitely a people person. I have a degree in journalism and international studies because I wanted to be an international journalist. I much prefer words and people over numbers, but I like money. And so I learned to be good at basic math. And I think that everybody can be good at basic math, at least enough to analyze good deals.
There's models out there. There's spreadsheet Excel models. You just plug and play, put in your numbers. It works.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think the one question I get is it now a good time to buy? And how do I know if it's a good market? And the answer is do the numbers. Do the numbers work? It doesn't matter. If the numbers work, they work in any market for any property. I was checking out your IG and I like your post. I think I saw one where you were saying, and it might have been a little while ago, but it seemed fun, how you were saying that you were staying in a fancy hotel, a luxury hotel one day, and then sleeping in your Jeep probably in the parking lot the next day.
Yes, this is true.
Living the true nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah, my mom really doesn't like hearing those things.
I don't think any
So,
mom would. I wouldn't like my kids leaving sleeping in the car at Walmart with no place to stay at night.
yeah. Okay, I had a place to stay, let's be
Oh, it was
clear.
by choice.
So, yes, it was by choice. So what it was is the story that you're talking about was I was actually on a road trip through the US with my American Express Platinum Business credit card. I got a really good deal on a hotel in Vegas. And so it included like free breakfast, a $160 spa credit. And so I was living it up in Vegas for 2 nights. And then I wanted to keep going either to St. George, where Horseshoe Bend is, which I had never been to. I'd seen it on Instagram, but I had never
Oh,
been.
it's so pretty.
And so I was driving, and I'm sure anyone that's ever been on a road trip, sometimes you just get antsy and like, you should pull over and like stay the night at a hotel. But I was like, oh, I can keep going. Like, I have energy. I could keep driving. So I kept driving until maybe like 11:30 at night. And I got so close to Horseshoe Bend that I realized I could just pull over, sleep for a few hours, and then be up early enough to do a sunrise hike. And so that's exactly what I
Ooh.
so I covered my windows, not with anything fancy. I'm not like a experienced car camper here. I quite literally put my like black sweatshirt in the window and like rolled it up. And, like, I did have one of those, screens on the windshield, and then I got a terrible night's sleep in the back seat of my Jeep and woke up the next morning and did a sunrise hike, and it was epic.
It's all worth it for the sunrise
Yeah, that's
sunrise
really good.
hike.
And all of that was, like, pretty spontaneous. Sorry, mom.
That's so fun. That's so fun. I hope my daughter lives the same life.
And I wanna, like, talk about some safety things. So I did park in a parking lot with a bunch of other RVs. I saw the RV that had a bunch of kids' bikes on the back of it, and so that's the one I parked next to. It was well lit. I had a sleeping eye mask that I used. Of course, my doors were locked. I also did my best to not get out of the Jeep. Like, I moved from the driver's seat to the back seat to not, like, show anyone that I was a woman sleeping by myself. So again, this is not good life advice, anyone. Like, please don't do what I do. But I just wanna make sure that the audience realizes, like, there is some thought that goes into it. I've traveled to over 55 countries on all 7 continents, and I really believe that the world is good. And have I been in bad situations? Yeah, of course, but people who never leave their hometown. have been in bad situations. And so I've been really lucky to have a good head on my shoulders. And if you get that feeling where like the hair on the back of your neck sticks up, I don't ever think it's inconvenient to do something about it. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't want to make a fuss. And then that's when something bad happened. And so when I get that feeling, I do something about it. And it's kept me relatively safe.
I'm glad you're still here and we're able to have this conversation.
Some of the stories I have, oh my goodness, I'm lucky to be here.
What good traveler doesn't have a story or two to tell?
Exactly.
So you are teaching people to buy rentals for people out there. Someone wants to come and buy their first rental in 90 days. What's the first three things that they should do? What's step one this week?
Step one is pick a strategy, whether it's long term, mid term, short term, flipping, syndications, wholesaling. And you could go detailed, right? Am I doing value add? Am I doing burr? I'm sure I'm saying a lot of things that you guys know what they are. If not, then like research is your best friend. So once you know your strategy, then pick a market. I like to work with investor friendly agents. I highly recommend you do the same thing. Then you don't have to go to these markets. I have bought and owned properties, even furnished rentals in places that I've never been until I bought there. Next, you want to have a ideal deal criteria or a buy box, as some people call it. And then you want to send that buy box to that investor friendly agent. And then you want to stay in touch. I am texting and calling and tweeting and Instagram commenting and all the things. I'm not actually tweeting. I don't know anyone that does that to their real estate agent. But you get the point. I'm in constant contact with my agents because there are great agents who you may have talked to last Wednesday, and it is now Monday, and they came across a deal this morning, and for some reason, they did not think about you. So I am texting my agents almost every other day to say, hey, I'm looking for something. Do you have anything? And I'm doing my best to not be annoying, but I'm also letting them know I want a deal. And that has served me really well. From there, you're going to write offers. If you do not write offers on deals that match your deal criteria, that are a good deal in the market that you want, with the investing strategy that you want, the agent will stop sending you deals. It's like that flaky friend that you keep inviting and keep inviting. If they'd never, ever come, you're going to stop inviting them. It's the exact same concept. So you're going to write offers and then you're going to go through the due diligence process. I like to have my investor friendly agent walk the property after I go under contract. Then they let me know if it's worth going forward and paying for an inspection. At the inspection, I like to have a general contractor, the inspector, of course, and a property manager attend the inspection. And then you go through due diligence. And then if you're going to move forward, you make it to the closing table and then you list it as a long-term rental, or you furnish and list it, or you hire Aria Design Services and we furnish it for you, and then repeat.
And you're managing it all remotely.
All remote.
What's the hardest thing about managing it remotely, do you think?
Mindset. It is calming the F down and realizing that everything's going to be okay. You do not need to get on a plane. There's no reason for you to walk the property unless you are a qualified GC, property manager, agent, expert in that market. There's no reason that you need to walk the property for something that's going on up here in your mind. And if you can just quiet all of those nerves, you'll live a much more calm and exciting life.
That's a tough one. How can you get over that? What's the recommendation to get over that hump?
Practice and grace, right? Like you're not going to not freak out the first couple of times, but once you get a couple of deals that work and it really works, and Sarah Weaver was right, you didn't have to go to the property, you'll believe it. My biggest thing that I love talking about is what I call function in the fear. I'm scared all the time, you guys. Like I say this with confidence because I talk about this stuff all the time, but I'm still freaking out. Like my last deal, I ran the numbers, at 2 a.m. because I couldn't sleep. And then I ran the numbers backwards and forwards and worst case scenario, and best case scenario. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is a good deal. And then I go back to sleep. But I'm still waking up in the middle of the night scared. And I've done this a lot. And I teach a lot of people how to do this. And so you're absolutely going to be scared. And you just function in the fear. You're scared and you do it anyway.
Yeah, because if you hold yourself back just because you're scared, you're never going to move forward, right? You're never going to get all the things that you dream of.
And I don't want to be on a plane driving to Iowa in November or flying to Iowa in November when I go under contract on a duplex. And I don't have, a husband and kids at home. So think of all the people that do have a full-time job, a W-2. They're going to have to use their precious vacation hours and leave their family and put childcare in place. And it's like, no, Don't do any of that.
Then what kind of tools or checklists or things that you're using to help you? I mean, we mentioned underwriting, doing the running the numbers.
Yep. So I have a really simple deal analysis spreadsheet. People message me on Instagram. I can send that to them. It's really simple. I like simple because I do believe you should be analyzing, at least 15 deals a week when you're actively buying. I am using
How long
Asana.
does it take for you to analyze a deal?
Well, if an agent gives me what I ask for, which is the recommended purchase price, estimated rehab, estimated insurance, estimated utilities, current rent, and market rent, I can analyze a deal in a few minutes. If they're not giving me those things, it's going to take me 45 minutes minimum. And then I'm using a task management software like Asana, ClickUp, Monday.com. It doesn't really matter which one you use, but I like something because then I can create a due diligence template and I can quite literally duplicate it every time I go under contract. And then I have a furnishing checklist. I have a inspector checklist. I have a checklist for everything because you guys, I've done this several times and I forget things. And so there's no way at the beginning you're not going to forget things. And then also having an investor community behind you. So like a few investing like BFFs that you can text when you're freaking out and they can sit down and run the numbers with you and calm you down and make sure that you get to the closing table. That's priceless. If you don't know how to find these people, you can join a paid mastermind or you can look on Facebook groups, you can post on Instagram. There's so many different ways to meet other investors.
You can join your retreat, one of your retreats.
Exactly. Join one of my retreats. I run a 12-month coaching program called the Mentorship Program. I love doing what I do because I help investors not only get to the closing table, but make a lot of friends along the way. I actually have people in my group that have met in my group online via Zoom and then gone on trips together. And I'm always like, hello, where was my invite? I
They
have
took it to
people.
another level.
Exactly. I've had people go to Mexico together, go to Greece together. I just recently celebrated 2 of my mentees got married, and their entire accountability group and myself were at the wedding in Austin, Texas.
Did they meet through,
They did
like
not. No, no,
oh, okay.
I'm not a matchmaker, you
I'm like,
guys.
"Wow, that's special." It's become
No,
it's
no,
become
no,
Sarah's
don't.
dating
No, no, no,
service.
don't come to me for that. It's not that kind of mentorship. Don't ever trust a single matchmaker either. So, yeah, you don't want me. I can find you a great agent and a great new investing accountability group, but I cannot find you romantic.
So you're also, aside from teaching people how to buy rentals, you're teaching them how to set it up. So once they get it going, they can step away and kind of the famous words, buy back your time.
Exactly. And a lot of people are doing what I do. They are buying remote so that they're not tempted to drive by the unit and do things themselves.
I'm super guilty of that. I'm the person that if it was close by, I'd clean it and do everything myself and drive myself crazy. Because
Yep.
I've done that.
And I have too. I'm not perfect. Like when I stay at my own units, I'm like, oh, cleaner, don't clean it. Like I'll clean it myself. And it's no, that's not a good use of my time. My time is best spent building relationships with investor friendly agents and analyzing deals because that's something only I can do. All the other stuff can be delegated. And when I say delegated, I mean to a virtual assistant. I've helped countless people in my coaching program find virtual assistants to make their lives easier, to manage some of the guest messaging, to manage even analyzing deals sometimes they'll help with. And so I'm a huge advocate of hiring out and delegating.
Do you train them or do they come already trained,
It
like,
depends on where you
with your
find
rental?
them. You can
Mm.
actually find an virtual assistants with real estate experience. For example, I had hired someone who actually worked at Airbnb, which was really cool. So they had a lot of insight in Airbnb that I didn't have. I found them on upwork.com or onlinejobs.ph. Those are 2 websites that you can use. I also have hired from a placement organization called Reva, REVA. So they actually gave me a fully vetted and trained VA. You pay a little bit more for that, but I found that it was really successful. And none of these things are an affiliate. So I believe in it because they're not paying me to recommend them.
Yeah, you're not getting sponsored by them.
No, not yet.
With several people working under you, I mean, working with you, your VAs, and you're Asians and then you're traveling, then how do you keep track of it all as far as accountability? Like, how do you keep them accountable?
With my team, we use Slack as our communication channel, and they are checking in daily, letting me know what's on their to do list so that I can look at their priorities, see if there's a shift or a change, which there's always a shift or a change when it comes to real estate and working with people. And then they're telling me at the end of the day what they did. And I'm doing my best to keep up with them and keep looking at those lists. And then they're also managing me. I learned early on when I was a recruiter about the idea of managing up. And my assistants have the right to say, "Hey, Sarah, you said you were going to review this email and you haven't." They even now are like, "Hey, Sarah, you said you were going to go to the gym and you haven't." And so, yeah, they're also managing me sometimes.
Ooh. I saw a quote somewhere. I think you said you can have both success and freedom. For people listening out there, where would they start with that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is define what success is to you. So, for example, I have a friend that I just recently traveled with, and we both are working out consistently. Her idea of success is having a six pack. My idea of success is just simply going to the gym consistently. A six pack is probably not in my future. And so that's a silly example, but I use that as an example that two people can look at something similar, like fitness, and have completely different goals. And so it's the same thing with life, right? So I like to look at the wheel of life. I like to call it the different buckets. And so for anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, if you Google wheel of life, you'll see hundreds of different examples. But why I like this tool is you're looking at different categories in life. So example would be health, relationships, they can be friends, family, romantic. You can split them out if you want to. Spirituality or religion, if that's important to you, career, finance, personal growth, learning, and personal development. I think that kind of covers the different like categories. I like to see them as buckets because then I like to see, is that bucket getting filled? And the reality is that for me, anyone listening might be different, but for me, I haven't found a chapter or a season in my life where all my buckets are completely full. Sometimes my health is empty, but my finance and career is really full. Sometimes my health is full, but my romantic relationships is empty. What I recommend everyone do is look at the wheel of life or the different areas of life, or I like to call them my buckets. And what does success look like in each of those areas? I get really granular. Like I am texting a friend 2 times a week to continue to have this close connection, especially because I spend so much time away. I have a calorie goal and a fitness goal, and there's usually something that I'm training for. I'm actually training for a really big hike called Asatanango, a volcano in Guatemala. It's a super difficult overnight hike that I'm training for right now.
That's fantastic.
When you ask about, like, how to have success and freedom, I think you have to define what success looks like for you. And for some people, it's $60,000 a year salary, and for other people, it's almost 10 times that. And so defining what success looks like for you and not what it looks like to your neighbor or your friends or your family's expectations for you. I learn a lot at these retreats that I think a lot of different cultures also have these like unspoken expectations for people, especially daughters. And sometimes you have to say, like, screw that. That's not my definition of success. I'm sorry, whoever has those expectations for you, but that's not how I define success. So that would be number one. And then working backwards. So for me, what I did is I wrote a letter to myself 3 years in the future. And I wrote out what every bucket looks like. So, how much money am I making? How am I helping and giving back? Giving back is a huge part of my why. Travel is a huge part of my why. I had goals related to my friends, family, and romantic relationships. All of that went inside that letter. And then I worked backwards. It said, okay, if I want to make this much money with Aria Design, how many clients is that? Okay, great. If for every 10 leads, I get X amount of closed deals, well, then how many leads do I need? Okay, in order for me to get that many leads, how much social media outreach, conferences do I need to speak at, email funnels? And I really just start working backwards. I break it into like an annual goal into quarterly goals into monthly goals into weekly goals. And before you know it, it isn't really all that hard. Like, I was able to reach, like, undescribable amounts of success really quickly because I simply just followed a plan. I wasn't doing life haphazardly. I wasn't just like don't get me wrong, sometimes I was throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, but then I quickly was pivoting. What do they say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? I take that really seriously. And I also give myself grace that not all of my buckets can be full at the same time. So my health goal kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, but I was crushing it in other areas of my life. And at the end of the day, I could sleep well at night knowing that I was moving things forward.
Is this what you would say is your definition of living life with intention?
Absolutely.
Also makes me think of manifesting. A lot of people talk about manifesting their dreams and their goals, and then it sounds like you take that and then you work backwards and make a plan.
Yeah, because I think like a dream is just a dream and a goal is just a goal, but you have to have an action plan.
Mhm.
And then 9 times out of 10, you also are gonna need people in your corner cheering for you, holding you accountable, reminding you, of your goals. "Hey, Sarah, you said you were gonna do this. Why aren't you doing it?"
Accountability. You own properties across multiple states. Have you thought about buying or have you bought internationally since you're such a world traveler?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is on my 10-year goal to buy something abroad. For me personally, I am in a place in my investing where I really want good cash on cash return. And a lot of the properties that I'm looking at abroad, while they're a great lifestyle investment and maybe even an opportunity to gain residency in a different country, I am finding better deals stateside because of our ability to leverage money. With
Mhm.
that being said, I also really would like to have residency in Europe, and so those types of investments that lead to residency or, better visa options for Americans tend to have a pretty high price point, starting at, 300,000 cash, and again, it's hard to see the same cash on cash return that I'm able to leverage 300,000 here in the US. So that is why I haven't bought anything yet. For listeners that are not looking for residency or they already are there financially, do it. Like, I have
Mhm.
spoken to countless investors that have invested abroad, and they're so happy that they did. I just have some bigger goals that I want to accomplish first.
What cash on cash return is your criteria?
It really depends. So, for example, the most recent property that I bought, not the greatest cash on cash return. It's probably like a 4.7, which is far below what I could get in the stock market. So, why did I buy it? Well, one, tax benefits. Two, it's a long term play. I bought a house for $265,000. And the plan is to eventually bulldoze it down and build a new build on the lot because new builds are selling just behind here. Our backyards are touching. They're selling for 1.3 to 1.9 million.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. And so I'm okay with a lower cash on cash return for now, cash flow, because I will rent the property out for a while I sit on it and wait for the land and the area to appreciate more. I want there to be more teardowns on that particular street, not just the street over, so that I have even better comps or comparables. And so something like that, I'm willing to do a lower cash on cash return. If I am doing a typical long-term rental duplex, I love to see above 9% cash on cash return. Otherwise, I might want to invest my money in the stock market or do private money loans. I'm also a private money lender, getting anywhere between 11 and 14% depending on the duration and the loan amount. And so it's really hard. I know investors are listening and they're like, "Oh, wait, what did she say?" Yes, would I love to tell all of you to only look at 16% cash on cash return and above? Of course. But is that realistic? And is that realistic for everyone? No, I don't think so. And so I think there's so many other factors that go into investing today, really different than 2021. 2021, I wasn't buying anything less than 12% cash on cash. And sometimes I was getting all the way up to like 21% cash on cash with these
Mm.
rentals. But I'm just not seeing those numbers today.
Yeah. The market is very different
Yeah.
than what it was in 2020,
Does
20.
not mean that
Yeah.
I'm not buying and does not mean that it's not good to invest in real estate. I think that I've also educated myself so much on the tax strategy piece that now every time I'm buying a property, there's usually a tax strategy piece to it as well.
There has to be. Investing just goes hand in hand. You have to understand the tax implications before you invest. And I think that that's a really good point in for every investor out there. If you're thinking about investing, you got to think out about the exit, how you're going to deal with that.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. Well, before we close out, what's one thing that you wish you knew before becoming a full-time traveler, digital nomad, running your businesses remotely?
I could think of about 20 things. I think the biggest thing is you don't have to do it a certain way. So there's some digital nomads that are like, oh, you got to go to Buenos Aires, you got to go to Lisbon. Well, if you don't want to go to those places, don't go. There are some that, are able to keep their workout routine and their health regimen really tight. And if that's important to you, like prioritize that. So I think, again, it goes back to like, how do you define success? And for some people, they might be a city person and they actually want to be a digital nomad in Brooklyn, New York, which is not a cheap place to live, or a beach in Bali, but that's their definition of a great life. And so I think getting really clear on what you want. And then if you get there and it's not what you want, do not be afraid to pivot. There are so many places, especially at the beginning of my journey, where I didn't really like it. But I was like, oh, but I already booked for 30 days. Like, okay, Sarah, I spent $600 for the month. Like, I could have early. And so figuring out like what success looks like for you, and then don't be afraid to pivot.
Awesome. Sarah, this was really great.
Thank you.
So great catching up with you. And for people out there who are thinking, well, I want to travel more I want to leave my job and I want to travel and I want to live the life that I want to live, that I have dreamed of. Sarah is walking proof that you can do it and you can have a business, you can invest, and you can be investing and roaming. Sarah, friends, if you really like this episode, Sarah, where can they find you?
Absolutely. My website is sarahdweaver.com, and I'm Sarah D. Weaver on Instagram. If you guys liked anything that you heard, please message me. I love helping investors and just cheering for you guys as you write your success plan and chase some freedom.
Love it. Love it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining today's episode of Invest in Rome. If you found value in this episode, please share it with a friend. New episodes dropping weekly. Like, follow, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Dear No. Keep investing, keep roaming, and keep living the life you deserve.